Hey, I'm Cliffhanger, and today's movie is Lost on a Mountain in Maine. A 13-year-old boy gets separated from his group and lost in the mountain forests. For 9 long days, he battles extreme weather, hunger, and fear, relying on his wits and faith to survive the treacherous wilderness. Based on a true story, the film begins on July 15, 1939, in the state of Maine. 2 brothers, Ryan and Donn Fendler, are playing with a toy train, while their father, with a concerned look, reads troubling news in the newspaper. As usual, the boys' play turns into a scuffle, then a full-on fight. Their annoyed father sends them outside to wash the car as punishment, but they continue bickering. From the window, their mother sees them still fighting and sends their father out to deal with it. When the kids see their angry dad, they stop, but he insists they fight it out properly if they want to so badly. Only their mother's call to dinner ends the showdown. At the table, the family discusses an upcoming trip to Mount Katahdin. Donn is upset that instead of the promised 2-week fishing trip, it's just a 2-day hike. He argues with his father about always being busy and storms off to his room. His mom comforts him with a heart-to-heart conversation and a haircut on the porch steps. The next morning, Donald and his 3 sons pile into the car. Ruth, with their daughter, sees them off as they head out across the scenic landscapes of Maine, yet untouched by Stephen King's monsters. Soon, the majestic silhouette of Mount Katahdin appears on the horizon, where they plan to set up camp. At the campsite, they meet up with the last member of their hiking party, Guide Henry. The boys pitch the tent while the adults prepare dinner. As night falls, shadows dance around the fire. Henry tells them the legend of a spirit said to haunt the mountain, an enormous creature with antlers and wings. The stormy weather outside only adds to the eerie tale, and Donn can't sleep afterward, haunted by the image and the whistling wind. Donald, who sleeps in the car with the youngest son, checks on the older boys in the tent out of concern. He gently strokes Donn's hair, the son he's been clashing with lately as adolescence starts to take hold. The next morning, the group sets off to hike up the mountain, with Henry leading and Donald bringing up the rear. They pass another group of hikers heading down, and as they climb, the weather worsens. Fog thickens and humidity rises. It gets harder to climb, especially for the youngest boy. Only Donn, obsessed with reaching the summit, pushes forward. When Donald suggests turning back, Donn reminds him of the lesson to always finish what you start. Donald agrees to take the youngest son back, while letting Donn and Ryan continue with Henry. As they climb higher, the fog gets denser. Ryan starts freezing, and Donn, trying to act like a true mountain conqueror, gives him his sweater, keeping only his windbreaker. At the summit, Donn enjoys a view of more fog. Ryan isn't impressed, and another fight breaks out. Henry has to step in before someone falls off the cliff. Angry, Donn runs off downhill in the rain and gets separated from the group. Henry and Ryan chase after him, but Donn manages to disappear among the rocks. As the downpour eases, Donn stumbles into the woods and falls into a grassy swamp, where he finds an animal skeleton. Caught in thorny plants, he tears his pants while escaping. He wanders the forest until dark, his shoes falling apart and socks wearing thin. He sleeps on the bare ground. Meanwhile, dozens of rangers and volunteers comb the forest with flashlights, while Donn's father calls home to deliver the awful news. The next morning, the search team checks the map, while Donn's mother demands answers. Rangers assure her everything possible is being done. Donn wakes up to see a feather floating above him. He grabs it, spits on the ground defiantly, and mocks his absent father's scoldings, until insect bites force him back on the move. He crosses a stream and continues on. On the 3rd day, he reaches a mountain river with a waterfall, which gives him hope. He plays in the water, singing, but soon realizes he's become a buffet for dozens of leeches draining his blood. After peeling them off in horror, the days go on. On the 4th day, Ryan asks his mother if she believes Donn is still alive. The search expands, the base camp grows, and field kitchens and medical tents are set up. Reporters swarm the area, eager for headlines, distracting the head ranger with press conferences. Meanwhile, the real story is still unfolding deeper in the forest. Feeling powerless, Donald returns home to comfort his wife. On the 5th day, Donn finds a cave and rushes in, hoping for people, but it's long abandoned. Inside are the dusty remains of someone's belongings, including a bent fork. Donn remembers his Boy Scout training and tries catching fish with his hands. No luck. Then he tries a spear, still nothing. But then, genius strikes. He uses his shirt like a net and finally catches one fish. Trying to start a fire with a horseshoe fails, so he eats it raw, sashimi style. As he chews, he remembers home and family dinners where food didn't have to be hunted. The day fades into twilight. On day 6, Donn wakes up in the woods and continues forward, drinking from streams and thinking about how he ran from Ryan and Henry. More time passes. On day 7, Ruth helps prepare food for searchers at the camp. A foul smell leads to a narrow crevice in the rock, too tight for any adult. Ryan volunteers to check it. Inside, he finds a rotting raccoon, not his brother. He rushes to tell the others and later, sitting with his dad, confesses he blames himself for Donn's disappearance. Donald assures him the fault isn't his and promises they'll find Donn. On the 8th day, Donn wakes to the sound of a plane overhead. He shouts for help but gets no response. Crushed, he collapses. Overwhelmed, his mind conjures hallucinations, a vision of the mountain spirit that Henry had described. In the dream, the creature gently wraps him in a wing and lets him sleep. At that moment, Donald, back in the woods, picks up a faint signal and runs through the night to find his son, only to smack into tree branches and injure himself. He's taken to the hospital, where Ruth rushes in to check on him. On the 9th day, Donn gets bitten by a spider, then stumbles upon an animal skull in the grass and plays with it like Gollum. Exhausted, he begins hallucinating again. He sees a soft bed in the clearing and lies down, ready to give up. Faces of loved ones flash before him, his siblings, his mother, and suddenly he sees his father calling out to him. Following the vision, Donn reaches a river. Across it, houses and a woman washing clothes. He shouts for help. Back at the hospital, Ruth runs into her husband's room with tears of joy. Donald knows immediately, Donn has been found. Soon, the boy is brought down the river by kayak into the arms of his waiting mother. They hug in the middle of the stream. Then, he's taken to the hospital, where doctors, reporters, and overjoyed relatives welcome the once-lost boy. Ryan returns the sweater Donn gave him at the summit. Finally, Donn sees his bandaged father in the hospital room. They hug, and his father whispers, "I love you," bringing tears to Donn's eyes. The movie ends with real archival footage of the actual rescue and interviews with the people involved. Donn Fendler returned to Mount Katahdin in 1976 to face his fear. He passed away in 2016 at the age of 90.